Now, it's the start of the new year, and I've been thinking for a while now, and that's always dangerous when I'm thinking because it's usually something pointless and contrary. But I think in this instance, I'm actually onto something because I think perhaps the worst element of reviews, and especially television reviews, is the fact that we have to avoid spoilers. And I don't say that because I want to go out of my way to spoil exactly what you're thinking about a game or even like, try and ruin a story for you. But it's more, I don't think we can honestly discuss especially story-driven games, if we can't discuss these moments and how they happen and things like that. And that's probably been my biggest bugbear with reviews for a long time. So I've decided to do a segment that I'm going to tentatively call Spoilercast, and I'm happy for better names. Just ping us in Discord or Facebook or whatever the case may be. I want to call it Spoilercast because I want to discuss a lot of these character elements and these character changes that really make what's great about games, and specifically discuss exactly what those moments are. And in this instance, it's actually a little bit different. So recently, the VGAs, or whatever the Keeleys are called nowadays, were on, just after I'm watching this is about a week after I've watched the Keeleys. And God of War won Game of the Year. Now, I can't call everyone a pleb, but I don't think that was the right call. But whatever, I can let that go. The one that got to me was it winning Best Game Direction, because I believe genuinely that as much as I enjoyed God of War, and I did, it was a very good video game, I believe that its direction is 100% the reason that it didn't deserve Game of the Year. And I'm happy to go into why, because this is the spoiler cast where we don't care about spoilers. So there should be a spoiler on the front. You should be warned. I'm going to spoil things, and I kind of need to make my point. So God of War. God of War, at its core, is a Zelda game in the same way that Ocarina of Time made you go back and forth between things. Once you defeat a certain boss or a certain particular story element happens, you can go back and forth in between these moments. And you need this certain power to get this, and you need this certain thing to go there. So whether we call that a Metroidvania, whether we call it a Zelda, I think a Zelda game is a more accurate comparison. Arkham Asylum was the same. I mean, Arkham Asylum had that very similar format, and it works. It's a good format in the sense that here is a world, we've created the world, you can see glimpses of it, you hint at it, people go, oh, I might be able to go over there later and speak to this person, go over here and go over there. So I get why they do it, and it makes the span of a game longer. And that's kind of God of War's problem, is it feels like a grind. And I'm coming off Red Dead Redemption, where I literally put 120 hours into it, something ludicrous. Like, it felt like a grind playing God of War, where playing Red Dead Redemption did not feel like a grind. And here's why I think that is. Because it's centered around Tyr's Lighthouse, or whatever the hell it was called. Tyr's Palace, Lighthouse, whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll call it Lighthouse from now on. It's centered around Tyr's Lighthouse. That's how you travel to the different realms, right? So you go to, Jotunheim at the very end, obviously. There's your spoiler. Niflheim, Muspelheim, which are just literally your grinding levels. So that's another conversation as well. But that, Alfheim, you transfer to all these places through Tyr's thing. And it's a great central point. It's the Great Plains, the Hyrule Plains. Like you go there, and then you go to where you need to go from there. The problem is, every time you defeat a boss or whatever, the world, like the snake comes out further, and more of the map is able to be accessed. And it's obvious. It never transcends that obvious, here is a game that we've filled with things to do. It's got a smack of that Ubisoft to it. And that's why Ubisoft, for a long time, while they've made very competent games, they've made very good games, but they haven't made anything I would consider Game of the Year contender for a long time, because they are just quintessentially games. It is by the numbers, and I think that is where God of War lets itself down. Too much unnecessary grind. Like Muspelheim was fine. I think Muspelheim's challenges were interesting. They were a nice little take. Niflheim. If you ground Niflheim, you need to assess what you were doing with your life. Why would you expend that kind of energy? I just don't understand the mindset of thinking that Niflheim's good. And then you get the Valkyries, and Valkyries were so cheap at the end of it as well. And this was them trying to extend the end game content. Realistically, you can't do Niflheim until the very end. The Valkyrie armor is decent. Defeating the Queen Valkyrie gets you the really cool end game items. But what are you going to play with them? You know what I mean? Like, you can do I don't even know. Is there a new game plus mode? Once I'd finished the story, I was done with God of War. And I think the problem with the pacing is that it didn't. At once, it felt rushed, and it also felt like it didn't. It felt rushed, and it also didn't feel like it explored enough on certain things. So, like Atreus finds out within the space of basically a 45-minute span that he's a god, abuses that power, nearly dies. That's where you're hitting those peaks within 45 minutes. In a game that lasts 20 hours, like, it was not well paced. It was awfully paced, in fact. And I think that is its single biggest weakness, is the fact that because of the nature of the kind of game that it was trying to make, it didn't set its goals well enough. And I think the reason Red Dead Redemption did it better was because of its free roam elements. As Arthur slowly succumbs to his disease, he gets his illness, he slowly succumbs to it, and it works into the epilogue. Red Dead Redemption 1 set us up for that because every Red Dead Redemption had the epilogue as well. So we knew that that was going to happen. So fair enough, it's established its own formula. But playing you could blitz through the story if you wanted to. You could just go straight to the story, go to the next thing. You didn't have to grind. You didn't have to try and find all these random items in the game. And maybe part of that grind is why people enjoyed the game so much. But it really, to me, showed that God of War wasn't trying to transcend what it was trying to do. It was just trying to be a video game, and it never wanted to be any more than that. As much as Chris Judge knocked it out of the park, as long as a young fella playing a Trace knocked it out of the park, it just never took me with them. And I think that is God of War's greatest failure. Its direction was the reason that it failed, because it didn't allow the actual characters to grow in a meaningful span of time. And maybe that's because where I skipped in, where I took time, where I didn't take time, met up with those moments. But until to me, the direction of God of War is the reason it should not have won Game of the Year. And yes, maybe that's because I'm still salty that Red Dead Redemption didn't win both ours and the VGA's Game of the Year. Fourth, you're all plebs, and it doesn't matter. Moral of the story is God of War. As much as I love it, I just can't think that it's quite the revelation that everyone else seems to.